Welcome to the Beasts of the NFC East podcast. I am your host, Sean Gnitzcavich. The regular season is over. The Giants' misery is just ended, or has it just begun? I don't know. We're still in a little bit of chaos. Giants season is over. Cowboys season is over. The Commanders and Eagles are poised for their playoff appearances this week. Jeremy Goode, what is good?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think this is a lot of teams were really looking forward to getting a week 18 who were bad. And now the season's over for them, but it doesn't seem like management has control in what's going on for the future. I know with the Giants, I think it was Jalen Hyatt was asked that, he was told that they were returning Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll. He said, "Oh, that's good for them," and stuff like that. It's just, all the play. It sounds like the players hate both of them. So we'll get into it.
Well, Jalen Hyatt probably I think he finished the year with like 11 catches and 68 yards.
Yes, it doesn't sound like Neighbors likes them either. It doesn't sound like. It sounds messy there, but yeah, obviously.
Hey, Wan'Dale likes him. Of course, Wan'Dale does, because Wan'Dale probably wouldn't be as productive as a wide receiver.
He might be
any other system. Any other team wouldn't have been a second-round pick under any other GM either. So, but
he's also a player who's probably been, the poster child for Daboll in terms of quote-unquote players he's developed. Obviously, I don't think Wan'Dale Robinson's a star. I think he probably, but at least I think he's grown in his NFL career because of Daboll. But alas. Yeah.
The Wan'Dale thing is something that I've been thinking about a lot. And this isn't even, I don't know why we're starting, but since we mentioned it, I saw on the broadcast that he has the most third down receptions out of any wide receiver.
Yes.
But I'm going to be honest, I don't think he turns a lot of those into first downs because they give him these little check downs, man. That's why he has all these receptions of no yards. His reception per yards or yards per reception is an average running back's yards per carry. You don't really need that. At that point you don't. It's not he's not a wide receiver too, in my opinion. He's
no.
He's a gimmicky slot wide receiver, but he was our wide receiver too this year, which was
Yeah, he is from what I've seen too. His ability to track the ball on the sideline downfield is questionable. You're speaking my language now too. We have to add context with a lot of these stats. There's so many stats that people give, and they look favorable, but it doesn't. Those stats don't amount to anything actually positive, because you look at the stats, and you go, "Oh, that's interesting. Why isn't this team better?" Or why doesn't feel like Robinson's a better player with such a positive stat like that? Dallas and the Giants, obviously in this division, are in the offseason. I think it's great for them because they don't have to continue their losing ways, and they get to focus on the offseason early on, which should be helpful. And I think it's good for them to clear the page on this season, move forward. I don't trust them, I don't think. Especially Joe Schoen. Maybe Daboll a little more, but I don't trust Joe Schoen. At least they have an opportunity to turn the page on this season. That's the best thing they needed, and they needed it quickly. And obviously, it took a while to get to week 18 because it just, when you're losing so many games early on, it just feels like forever. But we're at this point, and I think that in an odd way, it's a sigh of relief for them, just because they did their media days, but they're able to go forward now and focus on the future, which is their best option.
Yeah, I think because we're not going to really go over the Week 18 games. We're just going to get kind of into the death of the Giants and what's moving forward in the offseason, and the death of the Cowboys and what's going on moving forward, and then we'll get into a little bit of previews for the teams that are still playing for something with the Commanders and the Eagles. Is there anything you want to talk about before we get into these individual team progress reports, I guess we could say?
I was rooting for the Giants to win on Sunday just to worsen their pick. Unfortunately, and I don't mean this as any disrespect. I honestly mean this as just a as a learning tool for people. it's really hard to lose to teams that are just really bad and dumb. And that's like I don't mean to like
Tell
it's
it to
not
the
even,
Colts, man. Tell it to the Colts.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
But they're
It,
kind
like,
of bad and dumb too.
but I would put them in the same boat actually too. It's a good point, but I think of them as the Colts as well, or I think the Colts as the Giants similar. It's just tough. It's even with the back, it's tough. I think the Giants heard too much chirping, as they should have after beating the Colts last week, and they realize I don't want that anymore. I don't want to do that again. I think the coach and the GM realize it doesn't help them to win those games. John Mara said, if we do any tanking and I'm aware of it, I'm going to fire them. That's just not true. If there's one thing I could, well, not just this thing, but if there's one thing I could say about bad teams, it doesn't help at all to win at the end of the season. It's just moronic. Mara knows that. Daboll knows that. Joe Schoen knows that. It was good for the Giants to win last week. I mean, to lose last week against the Eagles. So they become the third pick. Could be better. Would have been better with one. But I feel like if they miss out on the quarterbacks, wow, Travis Hunter is a great consolation prize. But at the same time, they need a quarterback. So I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
It's such an intriguing situation just looking on and not, also not being in that situation. Travis Hunter I think he's special, but this team really needs a quarterback, and I don't know. They're also not really good at evaluating quarterbacks at the draft level. So,
well, okay. To be fair, Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll were a part of the Josh Allen regime. They really haven't picked a quarterback under this regime.
Yes,
with the Giants. And when they evaluated Daniel Jones, I think there might have been a little bit of push from John Mara to retain Daniel Jones as well. At least there was no pushback, And I think the franchise tag, it's all hindsight, but the franchise tag is what Daniel Jones should have gotten. And honestly, I think after Sam Darnold's last performance, even though he's been turned into gold this year, I think the Vikings retain him. I think they learn from the Daniel Jones thing, and they just franchise tag him and keep him there for one more year. And then you still have McCarthy in the wings. But yeah, and what do you think? Because I saw.
Well,
it's what do you think about the Darnold thing?
That's a perfect word for the Vikings. The problem with Sam Darnold is he wants to cash in on this year, and if he were to franchise tag, that doesn't give him long term. That doesn't give him anywhere close to a life-changing deal that he probably is looking for. I guess he deserves based on the stats. I wouldn't give it to him, but I think there's going to be one team that will be like, sure, we'll give you a 4-year deal. We'll give you a 4-year, I don't know, $150 million deal. And I think that he would choose maybe different, maybe
yeah. I think if anything, he'd probably get the Daniel Jones,
Yeah, maybe. But the reason why I'm lessing is just lessing or making it less than that deal is because that's a prime example of maybe not to do that. But yeah, I think that he could be in the $200 million range, and if he is, a franchise tag doesn't do anything for him. He has to play at that level again next year. Does he want to bet on that? I don't know. But
my other thing is why he might want to take the franchise tag and stick with the Vikings is because he had that success with the Vikings, and maybe he just wants to continue to show that he can be a top tier NFL quarterback, which he was. I mean, I think in all categories he was a top 5 quarterback this year.
It comes down to if he feels
cumulatively.
Everything has to go right too, and I think that besides the McCarthy injury early in the preseason or whatever it was, training camp, I think everything's gone right for Minnesota. I don't think they're going to have a favorable schedule like they have next year. I think I don't.
They did lose their left tackle. They did lose Christian Darrisaw, which that's kind of resilient that they still maintained.
So
they have.
Yeah, it's interesting. I just don't think they're going to be as good as next year as they were this year. That's not even because that's just because it's going to be hard to be as good. It comes down if Sam Darnold wants to bet on himself, and if I'm him, I would say, I don't know. I'm Sam Darnold. I had a great year this year. It's going to be really hard to do what I did that again next year, and I think someone's going to offer me $200 million in the offseason, at least.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But again, it does seem like, well, I guess he could go to another team. Yeah. But if you're the Giants,
I think he's going to also want to go to a team that he thinks he can replicate his success with. And
yeah.
I don't know if he wants to go back to New York. Also, I don't want. Let's get to the Giants. We're about 10 minutes. We're keeping Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen. Obviously, if you're watching this, you probably know that. John Mara's press conference was honest. Was very brutally honest. Like he even said he doesn't know if the team is a better roster than it was 3 years ago. But, all the defense of like, we're in a better roster, like we have more cap space. You want to know why we have more cap space? Because we didn't retain really good players like Xavier McKinney. Julian Love even. Going back to Julian Love. When we didn't get Julian Love, you think, okay, that's because we're saving money to keep Xavier McKinney. No. 2 Pro Bowl, potential all-pro safeties we let walk. All right? Saquon Barkley, obviously. That one might have been – you don't pay the running backs, especially in the position that we're in. Like hindsight's 2020. He goes to a team with a great offensive line that's been just waiting for a running back like Saquon Barkley. It almost breaks the rushing record. So that one hurts. But that's why we're in a good cap space. And then the drafting, they're really betting on this draft class. This draft class that showed a lot of promise in 1 year, but that can change. Like 1 year is not enough to solidify like this is a draft class. And also the only ones that look like bona fide stars right now are Tyrone Tracy. And he's still, best a top 10 running back, but I wouldn't put him anywhere near there right now. And Malik Neighbors, who looks like he could be a top 5 wide receiver next year and is in there in receptions and yards this year in that pack. With bad quarterback play. So, yes, that's good. But also, anybody would have drafted Malik Neighbors at that position. Second off, the reason why they're retaining Brian Daboll is because they put out feelers and they saw Brian Daboll as their best candidate. And I also think they didn't want to break up the Joe Schoen thing. But you want to know why?
There's also a second reason why they kept Daboll.
Yeah.
Well, not there, but just they don't want dead money. They don't want to pay two. They don't want to pay 2 head coaches when one's not there.
Yeah. John Mayer's done it before. The whole thing is he doesn't want to reset again, which I get. Like, also one of the reasons I think he's keeping Brian Daboll is because we've had McAdoo, we've had Pat Shurmur, we've had Joe Judge, and even though Brian Daboll has led the Giants to the most losses in a single season ever, the longest loss streak ever in a Giants season. There's still that coach of the year lingering. There's still that he's a QB whisperer. Yeah. And honestly, because he really wants to retain Joe Schoen to give him the 4 years that Dave Gettleman got, I don't think we would get a good head coach candidate who wants to be underneath Joe Schoen, who really only has 1 more year of security. Which, by the way, that's like one of the big things too, is that John Mara essentially said like, hey, if we're not like a 7-8 win team at least, like this is the end. Like this is the end of it, which that's awesome, I guess. Like I'm still troubled with it because obviously I would love like a Ben Johnson and somebody like I said, like dreaming like Ben Johnson or Liam Cohen and then some GM from like the Rams staff. But like that probably was not happening, that wasn't, especially with the third pick now too, where we don't even have a pick of one of the top 2 quarterbacks, which we need. But what sucks is that we're retaining Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll for potentially maybe 1 more year, which honestly, if I was a betting man, it sucks to say, but all signs are pointing to they're going to fuck this up too. And they're going to be gone in a year. And then if they draft our future quarterback, like we're like, you know what? They screwed up. This is their last line. We're just going to leave them with the most important thing to do. Get a franchise quarterback and turn this team around that has the worst record in the NFL this year. And by the way, we play the hardest strength of schedule next year because the schedule already came out, which is sick, dude. Thank you, guys.
I saw that. Jeez, the NFC East got screwed. Oh, my God.
Yeah, it's the way things lined up. But
I should say screwed, right?
Also, like the 4th place team that we're playing from the NFC West is the Niners, which like
Yeah, that's really unfortunate. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, that sucks.
Who knows though? Maybe I mean, they might have missed their window, but yeah, I agree. Next year
Yeah.
they still have decent talent where they're not that bad. But yeah,
Yeah.
that
Out of
really
all
is
the fourth place
unfortunate.
teams to play, yeah,
Yeah,
the Niners is definitely one of the toughest.
yeah,
But yeah, so as a Giants fan, I don't know, man. I have this like little bit of limbo hopelessness, and then also
yeah.
the fact that this is what really pisses me off. Sorry, I'm on my end of the season Giants rant. Get all the frustration that's
I
been
love it.
pending up out, but the worst thing is that when we were the number one pick, everybody's like, Shedeur Sanders is the best quarterback in the draft. And I was like, I want Cam Ward. Damn, dude. Like, hopefully the Giants see it otherwise. But now that the Titans have the number one pick, they're like,
Right.
Cam Ward is above it, is by far the best quarterback prospect. So, like, Cam Ward is either going to the Titans or the Browns. And we're going to be like, yeah, Travis Hunter, like you said, it's like, I texted some friends because I was trying to be optimistic. I was like, you know what? Like, we get one of the top two quarterbacks, or we get Travis Hunter. Or if Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll are so hungry, and Brian Daboll's ties to Bama, we're going to get Jalen Milroe, who needs to fucking develop. And it's
I've
almost like
seen a lot of that.
garbage as a
Yeah,
starter. I don't
yeah.
know, man. I'll let you. What are your thoughts on this as an Eagles fan?
Well, it's just. I mean, obviously, it's like watching just your favorite movie over and over again. It's phenomenal, um, especially because I've seen tough Giants teams growing up, and they've been good. I mean, even when I mean, I've seen those very great defensive units with Thomas as a cornerback, with the tackles with Strahan, with Osi Umenyiora, other guys too, Antonio
Besides
Pierce.
Nuka.
Yeah, it's been. I mean, it's been. I know what the Giants are capable of. I've seen it, and it's interesting that it's been irrelevant for a decade, and I haven't had to worry about that. So it's great looking at guys like looking at guys like Milroe. He's an interesting prospect at 3. Uh, the problem is the problem ultimately is you have to coach him up like crazy, and that just might be way over Daboll's ability.
Yeah.
And so that's why you probably yeah, it is interesting too how like now everybody's trashing on Shedeur Sanders and saying like, oh, I don't think he's going to be good when
Yeah,
he was
it's a 2-week flip, dude. It's a 2-week flip, and I'm
right.
surprised that people aren't like, oh, after Sam Darnold looked like garbage against the Lions. I'm surprised people aren't like, oh, maybe he should test for it. You know, it's like we'll see
Yeah.
how this playoff run goes. You know, but it's so funny how quickly, like the Shedeur Sanders plays that last bowl game, gets sacked a bunch, kind of looks like garbage. They lose terribly to BYU, and now
Yep.
he went from being like he's definitely the best prospect to being like, nah, he's a clear number 2 behind Cam
Yeah.
Ward. So yeah, it's it's crazy how that and it's gonna keep changing too. I think I'm just the Titans just fired their GM Rand Carthen.
Yes, but keeping Callahan,
Yeah, which
which I think is a good. I think
I just
yeah,
don't know. Callahan hasn't done enough for like a GM. Like a GM usually likes to pick their head coach, so I just don't know how
true.
that's fair for
Callahan
them.
hasn't been there that long either. What is this? Is only his second
This
year,
is
right?
no, this first year. First year.
Oh, his first, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you could be the Patriots and fire Mayo, which is lunacy. But yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I thought the Giants should have parted ways with both Daboll and Shane. Definitely Joe Shane. I mean, that's insane to keep running it back
Yeah.
with him. But I don't know. It's just really weird dynamics. I don't. It's now or never. I'll say that. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it has to be, and I think, I mean, I saw all the reports like Jake Glazer, Adam Schefter. They're all saying before the game, so I think that it was settled, you know. And
Yes.
they had a group meeting, Brian Daboll, Joe Shane, and John Mara on Friday prior to this week's prior to departing to go play Philly in Philly. And I think it was probably determined there. Like Brian
Probably.
Daboll's body language, the way he was acting, he didn't seem like somebody who was like ready to be
Yeah.
fired.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's a
and
good point. It's a catch
I'm not,
22.
yeah,
It's a catch 22 as well because Uh, you're supposed to lose the last game, and it only made sense to. The problem is you lost to the Eagles' third and fourth stringers, and it looks bad. And like that also looks bad too. Even though you're trying to lose, you made a lot of dumb decisions at the end of the game, which might have been on purpose just to guarantee their loss. But yeah, it's just nothing. Nothing looks good for them in this kind of uh, moment, and it's hard to see. It's just hard to see Daboll turning it around with what he's done so far. It's like, and he also developed. He did a good job of developing Daniel Jones in what the 2022 season. Just get that like
playing to
obviously,
his strengths. Yeah, but he didn't really develop him to the next level. And I think when
I
he
agree.
tried
I
to,
agree.
Daniel Jones was able to make that.
He
leap.
got the best out of him, and then Jones regressed. Just maintain that level of what you got out of him. But it's Daniel Jones plays a part of that too, I guess. But yeah.
Well, I think that Brian Daboll was that first year was trying to play to his strengths, and the second year he was trying to get him to evolve and take more deep shots, and then also like the whole like Daniel Jones being a running threat, which in the 2022 season I feel like Brian Daboll unlocked, but by 2023 people were expecting Daniel Jones to run, like they were used to that game plan. A couple other things, just talking about Brian Daboll too. I think John Mayer doesn't want Brian Daboll to continue play calling moving forward. So I think he just wants him to be a head coach. Mike Kafka, our offensive coordinator, who was calling plays, not this season, because Brian Daboll took over. He already got requested to get a head coaching job with the Bears, and I think also with the Saints.
Yeah.
Which I don't even know what, like, I don't know why. He hasn't done much, but I don't think he's going to stay with the Giants. I think that the Giants retained him to have some stability this year. The other thing is that John Mara really trashed our defense and our defensive coordinator too, Shane Bowen, which everybody speculated if Brian Daboll stays, like he needs to keep that continuity, at least keeping one of his coordinators. But it seems like Kafka's going. But now it seems like John Mara himself is like, I don't care who you get rid of this Shane Bowen guy too. Or maybe that was also just to spark a fire under Shane Bowen in his probably final year with the Giants. But if we get rid of Shane Bowen, like what defensive coordinator wants to go on what will probably be a one and done? The only thing I could think of that might be successful is if we get somebody from like, I don't know, some whiz that would like love to get a D coordinator position in the NFL from maybe like the college level, but I don't know any like big names. Like you're not going to be getting like an Aaron Glenn, obviously. Like why would he go from Lions to Giants, It
would be interesting if it sounds like the Raiders are going to keep Antonio Pierce. It would be interesting if they let him go and the Giants said, be our coordinator for at least a year and see how that, but again,
come back to the Giants.
Yeah, maybe I mean, that's also, they're trying to win though, going like next year they're trying to win. So maybe something like that, you need more certainty than Antonio Pierce, but you're also it's going to be tough to find. So I don't know. It's
a mess.
It's weird.
It's tough to speculate, but there is another coordinator that like just got thrown to the wolves, and I probably wouldn't even want him. Lou Anarumo, who used to be our secondary coach,
Cincinnati,
just got fired by the Bengals because the Bengals missed the playoffs because their defense was so bad. So I mean, I don't think I even want Lou Anarumo. Plus, like, he has ties with the Giants, but he doesn't really have ties with Shane and Daboll. But you know what? That's all speculative. That hasn't happened yet, so there's no reason. There's more time to get into that later on. When
I think I would fire Bowen, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, I would too. Dude, we didn't even. He was like our fifth choice. We didn't even want him in the first place.
Yeah.
But, draft wise, because this is, as a Giants fan, I will say, like, this is what my whole head is towards the draft now that like Brian Daboll and Joe Shane are secured. I want Cam Ward, and I would trade it. I wouldn't dump everything, but I would trade whatever we could to move up for Cam Ward. I think the Titans are going to probably go quarterback. And I think, and even if the Browns don't want to go quarterback, I think they're going to try to get picks. I don't think they're just going to be like, okay, we'll just settle with Travis Hunter. I think they'll probably, reach out to the Raiders too. So even though we're just one pick behind, we're going to have to try to match the same ante of a team like the Raiders, who I think fell to like 9 or 10
Yeah.
in the draft. So that sucks. But yeah, I was looking if Brian Callahan is retained, like I don't know why they wouldn't just fire him when they fired Rand Carthen, but he coming from the Bengals system, Shedeur Sanders is more of a Joe Burrow type quarterback and like the way that he plays, his play style. He's not Joe Burrow, but he also
Right.
sucks behind a bad offensive line, which the Titans have, and Cam Ward does better behind a bad offensive line. So I don't know. It's all up in the air. And maybe because Rand Carthen was like, oh, I really like Travis Hunter, maybe that's why he got fired too. They're like, we can't let you trade AJ Brown to the Eagles again for nothing. But yeah. Yeah, those are my stance on the Giants draft. And
There you go.
there's also the free agency, because now that we might not get one of the top two, Justin Fields looks like the best bridge, I would say.
Not awful for
In
a
terms
year.
of like he could have a ceiling, like he could. And hey, he had a better record than Russell Wilson this year.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, he's technically a dual threat quarterback with not an amazing arm, but he is dual threat. He's still young. He's still intriguing. You could do a lot worse than Justin Fields. Absolutely. Yeah.
could have maybe used him this year, to be honest.
I think that's I think that's a good. I think if that, I think you're now a year behind with that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it buys you another year, I guess, for Arch maybe. It's weird because Mara wants them to win next year, but it doesn't look like they're going to win. And it doesn't look like they're going to have their franchise quarterback, in my opinion, next season. Could be wrong, but
it's not looking good with the way that the draft is. The only thing is I've seen like some rumors that the Browns are going to go Kirk Cousins, maybe, because of like Kevin Stefanski's history with Kirk Cousins, which I couldn't even tell you exactly where those guys lined up.
Yeah,
what? Yeah, I don't know. Is Kevin
Interesting.
Stefanski maybe in Minnesota with Mike Zimmer? I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. We're talking. Anyways, Giants wrap things up. Hey, Malik Neighbors set not just the rookie record, but the Giants reception record all time, passing Steve Smith's record of I think 108 back in 2009.
Yes.
And then he held the all-time rookie reception record until like I think halftime of the Raiders game. Brock Bowers did not get a reception for the first half. It was like, oh my god, are they going to just not throw the ball? But no, Brock Bowers did take that crowd. I think he finished with 112 total.
Okay, a few more.
Because I think but Malik Neighbors, I mean, finally a 1,000-yard receiver. We knew that last week, but had a great touchdown this game. Just still with still inferior quarterback play. At least we have Malik Neighbors to look forward
inferior to. Defense on Sunday as well.
And inferior. Yeah, that's true too. Which I didn't even bring this up, but we started. The whole thing is we weren't tanking, but on Sunday we started putting players in and seeing if they could play at certain positions. Like Josh Azudu at guard finally gets put in on. Where was that against the Colts? I know that we have a chance to win, but you know what? We also probably shouldn't be winning. Maybe you try out some people in certain spots,
Yeah.
In the middle, just test them out. But yeah, Malik Neighbors. I do want to just say Malik Neighbors' stats just to put a little bright spot on these Giants. He was let's see, Jesus, there we go. Yeah, 109 receptions. 1,204 yards, which is 7th in the league. Receptions is 5th overall in the league. 7 touchdowns, tied for 21st. But 7 touchdowns is rookie season. I mean, this is, we got a future star wide receiver. So that's a plus. Yeah. Anything else you want to talk about the Giants? Because I feel like we could get into the draft and we could talk about speculative, coaching changes, but that's we got a whole offseason for that. So I think that's done there. Jeremy, anything you want to say about these New York
No,
Football
I have
Giants?
nothing else. No.
Yeah, guys, it's and I think once the Eagles and the Commanders get knocked out, maybe we could do a little free agency fantasy draft, or not fantasy draft, but mock draft, and maybe see how that goes.
Knocked out.
Yeah, you caught on to that one, huh?
Oh, yeah.
We'll see, dude. We'll see. Last year they were both first round exits with the Cowboys and the Eagles.
Last year, no one wants to be in the situation the Eagles were from December on from last year. That was just a spiraling train down to the pits of hell. Hopefully this year's different.
Yeah, and so we have hopefully it's the same actually. Maybe give the Commanders a win though. That way we can keep covering.
Oh,
I would love to see.
That would be dreadful.
Yeah. All right. Now going into the Cowboys. The Cowboys. You guys also sucked this season.
Yes.
You guys finished with a record of what? 5-12, 6-12. Oh my gosh. Where is this?
Weren't they better than that?
7-10. Holy crap, dude.
Yeah, that's why they're stupid team.
Yeah, well, you know what though? At least they fought. They fought. Like they're not looking for a quarterback, so I guess like it is good to see. Like Cooper Rush kind of showed that he could continue to be their backup, if that for whatever that's worth.
I guess. You have to again. I think that context is important. You have to look at the teams that they were beating during when it was already determined that the team was bad. But yeah.
Sorry, I saw this recently about the Bears have requested to interview Mike McCarthy as a head coach. Yes. And
which I'm not sure why they
still have not responded.
I don't get how they have to request that if he's a free agent. I guess maybe it's like a respect thing, but
I think they could still block because I think it's almost like I think at this time it's almost like free agency hasn't started too. So like you could, if you have them on your team, you could re-sign them, but no other teams could try to contact them. But yeah, that's kind of weird that the Cowboys just haven't responded. It's like Jerry Jones is real. It's almost like he wants to evaluate his options before he lets go of his safety net.
That's right.
I've seen like some rumors with Brian Flores potentially going to the Cowboys. Who, Brian Flores did a good job with that Dolphins team, who everybody thought would, not win a game, and then ended up being competitive.
Yes.
And I know. I mean, Brian Flores has been great for the Vikings this season. I mean,
yes,
like #1 defense type stuff. Although I'm not gonna lie, I didn't love the game plan against the Lions. Both times they played the Lions this year, he didn't really adjust, and the Lions kind of picked him apart.
Yep.
But that's just What one note? Obviously, he can adjust. I think he's a good leader of men. Zeke Elliott signs with the Chargers practice squad, so that's interesting.
Yes.
Not that really matters moving forward. But if you're the Dallas Cowboys, you finish 7-10. I believe they're picking 13th in the NFL draft. 13th or 12th. Let's see. 12th. 12th in the NFL draft. I know that everybody's mocking them Ashton Genty. They don't have to go Ashton Genty. They still have a lot of other holes, and this is a deep running back class. Rico Dowdle finishes with over 1,000 yards in the year, so that's something that you can consider keeping. I think you still probably invest in the running back position. I think you learned from that this year that Rico Dowdle probably isn't a good lone back.
Yep.
Moving forward. I also think that Brandon Cooks is probably not the best wide receiver too for you guys, especially dealing with injuries, and he's like 31 now.
Getting old. I was just going to say getting older too. Yep.
Yeah. Defense, the linebacker position looked a little bit better with Eric Kendricks, but he's also like 32. Kind of got to move on from him. Maris Luafau, as much as I've kind of made fun of that pick in the third round, which I think, was a little bit of a reach. He's a hard hitter, and I think he's good depth, on the Cowboys. Unfortunately, Marvin Overshown will probably miss next season with his knee injuries, which sucks. Trayvon Diggs should be back in time for next season. Deron Bland finished healthy. Micah Parsons, second player ever in the NFL to have at least 12 sacks in his first 4 seasons. Do you know who the other player is, Jeremy?
Lawrence Taylor.
No. Hint, he played for 2 teams we're going to be previewing moving forward.
Oh. In the division?
Not in the division. Not just in the division.
That help. I guess that hint doesn't help.
Particularly the Sunday 4:30 game. Played for both of those teams.
Oh, that's what I thought. Yeah, that's where I thought you were going. Reggie White.
Hell yeah. Yeah. Which is awesome. I mean, Micah Parsons, and now he's trying to recruit Tyreek Hill. So, hey, we were talking about need for a wide receiver too. Hey, another aging wide receiver too. But it's actually, I think if he's on the team with CeeDee Lamb, they're kind of 1A, 1B.
Yes, that would be interesting.
Tyreek kind of declining. I don't know. How do you feel about that? Because I think if you're a Cowboys fan, season's over. It's kind of been over since Dak got hurt. I think the things that you're holding on to are like, I don't know, maybe we do get Tyreek Hill. Also, are you kind of annoyed with the amount that Micah Parsons podcasts? Is it kind of getting distracting for the team? I don't know. What do you think, Jeremy?
Yeah, I think Dallas is going through a mess right now. They still, I think, one of the biggest issues they have is they still have number 4 as their quarterback, and I think Dak is just, we've seen Dak throughout his year, bad year, good year, bad year, good year. Good years never amount to anything ultimately. And so it's just tough. It just doesn't seem like he's the ultimate guy to be there, but he's also consistent enough where they have other more problems than Dak. They have a lot of issues on their offense. They just don't have much talent. CeeDee Lamb is great. CeeDee Lamb is very, very, very great. And then it's like after that, it's Brandon Cooks, not the same guy anywhere close to what he was in New Orleans, even maybe New England too. No, nothing in the run game. They'll fix that, I assume. I think they were trying to be cheap, and I think they were trying to get away with not addressing the running backs. And everybody would have told them in the offseason that was a mistake. You have to invest something in the group. I think they'll do something there for sure. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if I guess Tyreek Hill's getting older too. He is quite a personality as well. Not a personality like Micah in the sense of how he, speaks on this podcast and just to the media after the game. But Tyreek Hill, in a way, he's distraction worthy. Not necessarily a bad way, just he
seems like a Jerry Jones pickup. To be honest,
yeah,
I feel like with Micah Parsons, I mean, think about all of the players throughout the years, like Pac-Man Jones and who is that big defensive, like the D end? It's escaping my mind. But
Greg Hardy.
I
don't know. I'm trying. I'm just guessing.
No, I was trying to think. He played for the Niners, I think. I don't. It's all right, but I think Tyreek Hill would be right up the alley of Jerry Jones for like a 3rd or 4th round pick, which is a lot of people are saying what they would probably trade for Tyreek Hill at this point. Which I think.
Go ahead.
It's a solid price for Tyreek Hill. Like I as the Giants, I'm not going to trade a 3rd round pick for Tyreek Hill. But that's the Cowboys, who always thinks that like this year is going to be my year. 3rd or 4th round pick, or even a 3rd and a 4th round pick for the Cowboys, I don't think is awful for Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, isn't he on a pretty expensive contract though?
I feel like the Dolphins. Well, yeah, depending on what the pick, it's
I
probably
don't think I don't think
how
it's
much they're going
Dallas.
to
I
eat.
don't think Dallas has that much money either going to next season. But I guess not. I get 3 year, $90 million deal. But
Yeah,
what's the cap hit for 2025? I'm not sure. But yeah, I guess he'll be 31 going into next year.
yeah.
Maybe he has a little bit of juice, a late round pick like that. Maybe. Um, it's weird because it's almost like Dallas like that. I think he'd make. I think Tyreek Hill would make them better, but you need more than that. You need guys who can play different parts on the team that might not be a slam dunk kind of name, but fit the role well. And I think that yeah, they really just didn't do much last off season, like you said, like Kendricks. Who else? Not many. So
That was it. It was
yeah,
Kendrick.
they
It was
ran
their
it
only
back, but they also lost guys too. Like who they didn't replace, and they're gonna have to that they can't do the same approach next year if they want to be good.
Yeah, no. And they do have 17 million right now in the cap for this offseason, is what they're saying.
Okay.
Um, yeah, but we'll see. But I guess the real question, because this is all speculative. There's the draft. Do you think they should retain Mike McCarthy?
Oh no, he's
Yeah,
McCarthy's awful. I mean, as
yeah,
an Eagles fan, absolutely. And Jerry's leadership, decision making over recent years has just been a blessing for every other team that goes against him. McCarthy's an awful coach. Really bad. His preparation, his adjustments, his depth charts, uh, bad. Really, really bad. He had a really nice Packers Super Bowl team. You could argue that those teams should have won more Super Bowls with
yeah.
Rodgers and just all those other teams throughout those years. If assuming the Cowboys keep McCarthy, mistake. He's just awful. And Jerry's a loyal guy. Look, it seems maybe he also doesn't want to, when firing people, you're admitting that you made a mistake and something didn't work out. But I mean, we heard it before, Sean, earlier in the season. We heard that audio tape where Jerry Jones said, "It's a brand. This is more than just winning with the Cowboys." And if you're a fan of the Cowboys, that's fingernails to the chalkboard. But if that's Jerry Jones's mindset, the team is, worth the most in the NFL. I think they're top three, maybe sports franchises in all
I think
sports.
number one, dude.
Yeah,
I think
maybe one.
yeah.
Uh, that he's money talks. He's money. He's getting older. I think he knows it's hard to have good football teams and you really have to work at it. And I don't think he's about that work anymore. So
Well, I'll tell you what. He was asked if he wants or if he would give up, GM duties, but his response was, "I didn't buy a football team to not be able to decide everything." Essentially, was what he said. So,
right.
which dude, I don't blame him, dude. If I had the money to buy an NFL team, I don't care how many people are talking shit, dude. I'm gonna be
Oh
on
yeah,
my boat
I agree.
drafting whoever I want, man. That's
I agree. I just have to look it up with his age and everything. Maybe and with
yeah.
just not
What's his age? What is he now? Like
82.
82. Mm. Hey, good for you, Jerry. Good for you, man.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think I get it's been year after year where they've just been an embarrassment. I mean, it's embarrassing. They've lost like uh, whatever charm that franchise had from the '90s. That's all gone. Just like they haven't been to a Super Bowl since the '90s. Same as winning one. Oh, it's bad. Yet alone going to an NFC Championship game. Yeah, I don't know. It's it's more than winning in Dallas, I guess, like you said, and that
Yeah.
that's going to hurt them going forward. Now, it's amazing that they have been as successful as they have within, over the last 20 years. They have drafted decently well in that time span, and they have been able to, obtain
That is
talent.
true.
Yeah.
Jerry Jones is like, as much as you want to put him down, I will say though, and they've been really good at especially drafting and developing O line. One of the biggest things, especially if we're looking at this year in hindsight,
Yeah.
Tyler Guyton did not play up to the level of a starting left tackle, and
Right.
didn't really show enough promise where like you guys feel incredibly confident that
And
he's your
especially
starting
because he
left
didn't have to
tackle
start.
going into next year.
He didn't have to
Yeah.
start year one either. Like, they didn't have to rush him. And I would agree to your overall point. Like, Guyton's one
Yeah.
example. In recent years of drafting, I don't think Jerry Jones has been good. So even though historically he's been decent, within recent years, I think that's gone down a bit. And even for like, it just shows that like, even for his ability to draft over the last few decades, there's certain things where like you still have to like put people into specific places, just regardless of their skill and talent. It doesn't seem like they hit or click on that kind of stuff. Like, they have the talented teams, and then those talented teams still lose in the first round the playoffs every year. They go, how could this happen? It's like they don't. There's something missing with the team. It's something chemistry wise. It's something, the little things they miss on. So, but they'll we'll see.
Hey, they could be back. They could be back in the mix next year. Like they did have a lot of injuries. I will give you that. Like the Cowboys finished 7-10, losing their starting quarterback. They didn't have like a full healthy defense the entire year. Deron Bland comes back. Trayvon Diggs goes out. Like Micah Parsons missed multiple games. DeMarcus Lawrence missed a bunch of games. Also, I'm curious. Is DeMarcus Lawrence? He must be like at the end of his contract, huh?
I would think so. It's a good question.
Yeah, but we'll yes. Yeah, it looks like. Yeah. I believe.
We'll be 33 next year.
Yeah. Honestly, they have a lot of their I'm looking through their free agents. So we'll get into the free agent preview. I can't believe they still have Will Grier. I didn't realize they had Will Grier.
Yes,
Holy
it's
crap.
kind of funny that you mentioned that, because Will Grier has been during off seasons. He's been during training camps. Eagles have had him on board here and there, and I thought that with Kenny Pickett, I thought his injury would be a lot more serious. And I thought, they'll probably bump up Tanner McKee, maybe bring up Ian Book as the emergency quarterback, and then I guess as as your practice squad guy, bring up Will Grier, and I'm like, he's on Dallas. But I guess he's is he on the practice squad with Dallas, or is he the emergency quarterback in Dallas?
He must be. It's probably.
No, he must be. He must be practice squad, because you had Dak, you had Cooper, and you had Trey Lance. Yeah.
Hey, Trey Lance is going to be a free agent. Giants. Hey, maybe if we miss it on the top two. No, please don't. But yeah, I think that's enough. I think we're ready to start talking about these playoff games. Is there anything else you want to talk about for these Cowboys, or no?
No, really bad team. I think they'll probably get better, but to what extent, I don't know. And to a high enough extent, not enough ultimately. Yeah. All
right. Well, now we're getting to the real stuff, not just the speculation, not just the woes of ending the regular season as a abysmal franchise again. We're talking about the teams that could take it all the way. Talking about a team that I hope does not take it all the way, but is the first playoff game that we're covering as an NFC East podcast. It's the Philadelphia Eagles, who will be at home as the 2 seed, with the Packers coming in, who lost to the Bears, which they were playing all their starters, as the 7 seed. Jeremy, the spread on this game is, I just lost it, but I'm pretty sure it's Eagles minus 4.5.
It opened at Eagles minus 3.5. It then moved to 4.5, I think, with maybe the Christian Watson news, although I don't know if he's worthy of an entire point. But I think
No.
with that news, with maybe Jordan Love being banged up here and there, maybe
Yeah.
that was enough to move it a
I do
point.
want to see if there's any update. Yeah, and I also think them losing to the Bears, while they were actually like
Yes.
kind of playing for seeding, I think
Yes.
that probably also has a stake, like the recency bias. Yeah. Obviously, they played week 1, which is really cool because both matchups, which I don't think we brought up, both matchups, the Commanders and Bucks, they started off the season in week 1.
That's
And
kind of
the
wild.
Packers Eagles also started the season in week 1, and now they're playing each other in the playoffs. That's kind of nuts, especially that both of those NFC East matchups are repeats of week 1. Obviously, the Eagles came out on top 34-29 in Brazil. And
Yes,
that was to the wire, though. And Jordan
it
Love, that's when
was.
he first got injured, and then we saw that Malik Willis, which Malik Willis even looked pretty decent, somewhat decent against the Bears, But if Malik Willis has to come in and play against the Eagles, I think
Yeah, the,
you
the
can
Packers
risk
are
a
in
repeat.
trouble.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, it's we said about this before the podcast, Sean. The NFC is loaded on the
yeah.
top, and so it's kind of a miserable matchup for the Eagles, who for a 2 seed, you're not looking to play a team like the Packers as a 7 seed, um, who even though the Packers finished with 11 wins, I consider them a 12-win team because I think that they would have won. Like, they lost to the Bears the last week, and that should have been a win in my opinion. But then they wanted to play for health, yada yada yada, whatever. So they easily, very well could have been a 12-win team. Kind of brutal to play that round 1. What the Eagles are banking on ultimately. Week 1, their offense was a little slow too, but their defense is just not what it has been the last 10 weeks of the season, I guess. Maybe even more, 10 to 12 weeks of the season, 3 months. So Eagles are hoping that defense will be a major difference from week 1, even though they did win that game. And it will be in Philadelphia instead of 16 hours away. I think maybe less. But
In Brazil, yeah.
yeah, in Brazil. So you can't take anything for granted. I think Green Bay is a good team. I think people are. It was a debate where it's like, do you want to play Jane Daniels in Washington or the Packers with Jordan Love? And people are like, Daniels is more dangerous. But it's like, I don't know. I think Jordan Love's a nice quarterback. I get that, like, he has some WTF moments, but like, I don't know. He can sling the ball, and like, I just think he's still a good quarterback. Um, Jacobs is a threat, obviously, out of the run game. One thing Eagles have been a little bad at to end the season is the run defense. So there's something to note there. Packers don't have Jair Alexander, big loss. They won't have Christian Watson, another big loss. I think one thing that scares you about the Packers is they don't really have star receivers, but they have a lot of dangerous threats with Jaden Reed, with Christian Watson obviously not playing, with guys like Romeo Dobbs, or Romeo Dubes,
Octavian, yeah.
and
Octavian Wicks, yeah.
yeah. And so,
Even Bo
like,
Melton. Bo Melton, Tucker Kraft,
yeah,
Luke
they have
Musgrave. I
guys
mean,
who can. They
even
have
Luke
guys who can.
Musgrave, who's been injured, but still a
Yes,
good receiving tight end.
yeah, they have guys who can make a play downfield, and I think that's always tough. And I think when you're looking at it with Washington, it's like, yeah, they have McLaurin, and their offense is okay too, no doubt. But like, it just seems more manageable to focus on that than like a lot of different guys in Green Bay who small, quick, but can make plays downfield. And some guys also have size with the Packers, so it'll be a good matchup. Um, Interesting that the line started off so low in 3.5, in my opinion. I still think the Eagles
It's just
win.
playoffs. Playoff football. I feel like there's
Yeah,
spreads. You don't really see. I mean, I'm looking here at all the spreads. I mean, the largest spread Oh yeah, there's a couple big spreads, like Ravens -10 against the Steelers.
Wait,
I don't
wait.
know.
Say that again.
Ravens -10 against the Steelers. That's kind of
Yeah,
nuts. I
yeah,
mean, I like the Steelers have kind of fallen apart a little bit towards the end of
yep.
this season, but still, and the Ravens are like hot, but I mean that could go either way. And then the Bills -8.5 against the Broncos, which I mean that one. I think everybody kind of thinks the Bills are going to run over the Broncos, but you never know. And the Broncos have a great defense. But you look at the Packers. The Packers have an amazing defense. Xavier McKinney, finishes I think with 8 interceptions on the year.
Yep.
He looks great, and he knows the Eagles all too well. I think
He-
he had it in his. What did he have? 1 or 2 interceptions week 1? I know he had at least had 1 interception week
I think
1.
one.
Yeah. Yeah, the Giant Alexander, I did see a stat that when he's not playing, the completion percentage against the Packers defense goes from like a 60% to a 70%.
Yeah,
So that's like it is
I can see
noticeable. As
that.
much as he's a head case, and he really is, but he's also like a top 5 cornerback in the league. So
We had
that
difficulty
is
against
a
him
huge
week
loss.
1. Yeah.
Yeah. But hey, the Packers do have Corey Valentine and Corey Ballantyne, both of Valentines. One of them being a Giants 6th-round pick who got shot on draft night. But that doesn't really have anything to do with this matchup. That's just a fun fact there.
There you go.
But yeah, I mean the Packers have a better defense than the Commanders, so I think
Right.
that's a little bit more dangerous.
Yes.
Jalen Hurts is still in concussion protocol. I don't think.
Yeah, but it's a little
really be an
misleading.
issue.
It's a little misleading because the Eagles don't practice until Wednesday, and you can only get out of protocol until you practice. So
Okay, fair.
he might have been able to be out of protocol last week, but he wasn't playing, or he wasn't practicing because he wasn't going to play against the Giants. So there was no reason. So it's a little, but like, it is, it's interesting. Yeah.
I mean, this is we don't have to talk about this much, but if Tanner McKee has to start for the Eagles,
Yes.
do you think they still win?
I think it becomes a lot. It's tough. I think it's obviously a lot harder, no doubt. I think they still could pull a win, yeah, because I think that Tanner's comfortableness and ability to stand in the pocket and be patient and make professional throws and play with the talent. When he was in for the Cowboys game playing with AJ Brown and Devontae Smith, he said, "I know to get the ball to AJ Brown. Why make my life harder?" So that's good to hear. He obviously executed too against the Cowboys. I still think they win. I think Jalen Hurts is definitely going to play, but if Tanner goes in there, it'll be interesting. But I still think they can win with their game scripts that they've been going through. But they'd have to get out to a hot start. They'd have to lock down defense early, and a few quick scores would be lovely, but definitely an early score for sure. It's interesting.
Yeah, I am kind of curious to see how this game plays out because I think this is going to be a great matchup. Obviously, my girlfriend's a huge Packers fan, so
Yes.
I'll be rooting for the Packers. Like not like I wasn't going to be, anyways, dude. I'm sick of seeing your Eagles win. It is especially in our own misery. Like
Yes.
I know you guys wanted us to win last week, but then when we lose, you're still like, you
did.
guys can't even beat our backups. I'm like, okay, cool. So like we were going to win anyways, As a
I know.
Giants fan.
Like I said, it's a catch-22.
Yep. Yeah.
Ultimately, the best. They made the best decision, and I think you could tell too that 55 of the Giants jumped on the count at the end of the game. He
Boogie
knew.
Basham. Yeah.
Yeah, he knew.
Yeah.
Yeah, Boogie Basham. He knew what he was doing. But yeah, I mean, yeah,
He's a Joe Shane guy. Joe Shane's like, please, dude, we need to get a quarterback. We need a quarterback. Like, I'll retain you next year for another minimum contract.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Dude, I don't know. I think keys for this Packers team though.
Yes.
Is I think you gotta stop Saquon Barkley. That's like obviously
Yes.
like if you could, and I think that's like any team that wants to beat the Eagles now. Like
Yes,
now
I
that you
would
guys
agree.
have that addition of Saquon Barkley, like you have to bottle him up. And I think on the flip side of that, you have to get your run game going, especially just because that opens up all those receiving threats. The good thing is that like they have a million receiving threats, like you mentioned earlier. So I
Yeah.
think just unfortunately that the Eagles defense also have really good defensive backs. So it's not like
Right.
a definitive weakness there.
Yeah.
So I think keys to the Packers winning this game is a great overall defensive performance and not making mistakes on offense. Because I think their offense is good enough at base level without having to go above and beyond, a lot of deep shots. If they just run a basic, a couple reverses with Jaden Reed, get some quick outs to Wicks and maybe a shot play, a little seam route to Dobbs here and there and keep Josh Jacobs going, I think they have a chance to win this game. And now I'm sounding like a Packers fan, but I really am for this game. Overall, I kind of like the Packers plus 4.5 because I think this is going to be a tight game. I mean, it came down to the end of like this. These teams, yes, they've grown, they've changed. There's been injuries throughout the year, but on paper, I think from like week 1 to now, I think these teams have essentially the same identity. I don't think there's been too many adjustments to how they've played their games and their keys to victory. What do you think about that, Jeremy?
Yeah, I just think I think it's on. I think the game plan. I agree with the game plans. I think in general for the Packers, they're going to have to score the football at a very high rate, and I think the problem with that is they're just going up, and it's something that they can't control, but they're just going up against a very, very good defense. The NFL views the quote unquote the best defense as the team that gives up the least amount of yards on average for the season. The Eagles were first in that, only giving up 278.4 yards. The next team closest was Tennessee with 211. I feel like that gap is just wild because then after that, you see like the Jets with like 213, 214 for Miami, 215, 215, Houston, Green Bay as it goes on. So, yeah. I think the Eagles are different from week 1 for the better. I think that it's just going to be tough for the Packers. And it does, I don't think it helps it. Unlike last season, they're kind of, they got to the end of the regular season falling forward, I guess, or not like on a high note in any way. I just don't think they've been playing like amazing football within the last month. So we'll see. They're a good team, obviously. They have a quarterback. I think their head coach is pretty good too, and Matt LaFleur. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see here. If the Eagles get blown out by the Packers, do you think Nick Sirianni's job is in jeopardy?
I don't. I think that I think that he's done too much over the last several years, including this year after the bye, where they were 2-2, and even after the week 6, where they were 3-2, but they barely beat a miserable Browns team. Where they were and where they are now, I just Sirianni just wins. I mean, and obviously, losing round 1 would be extremely disappointing and awful. Don't get me wrong, but they are going up against the most talented 7 seed we've ever seen, and I say that obviously we haven't had many 7 seeds to for
plus 3.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I would say that this 7th seed, and I'd have to look back, of course. I would say that this 7th seed Packers team is probably better than most 6 seeds back in the day too. Maybe they compete with some 5s, maybe some 4s. They again, this is an 11-win team. I think they should be 12 with the Bears, but obviously the game didn't really mean much, so they didn't have to play their starters, obviously, if they wanted to. I think ultimately they win. They lose the last against the Bears with a field goal, of course, which is ironic. But
Yeah.
yeah, I just think that I think that I think again uh, I think I don't think you can fire a coach who's like just done so much for this team. Second year, first year they go to the playoffs after a miserable 2020 where no one knew where the fate of the team kind of felt like the Giants in a way. First year he's there, go to the playoffs, get smacked by Brady in the playoffs, but you know, baby steps. Second year you go to the Super Bowl. Third year you collapse at the end last month, but you sort of get rid of the bad pieces. And you still had a good year, kind of in a way, up until you had a great year up until that point, till the collapse. And this year they've just gone on a tear and won 14 games. I think the NFL is just really hard, and it's hard to win championships in any league. I think the NFL it's very hard, and it would just be really punishing. I just don't know who like. It's like yeah, okay. If you were to get someone like Ben Johnson, it's like all right, that's cool, but like. I don't know. You have something that's working, and the players love him, and I think it all. I think it all is a reason why they've won 14 games this year. It's
Yeah.
like Sirianni, like I get it if people don't like him outside the Eagles organization, but like he just wins. And I think it's just too hard to like keep on finding a head coach in that situation when you have a guy like Sirianni already.
It's true. Isn't it a fact that if the Eagles have won 14 regular season games, they've gone to the Super Bowl?
Yes, they did it in 2022. Um, and that was the first time they've ever won 14 games. Actually, the most wins they've had uh, in a season before 2022 was 13. They've always sort of been a 13-3 team at their best. And 2022 they won 14 and went to the Super Bowl. A stat whenever they're a 1 seed too, I think that they usually go to a Super Bowl. And they've never been a 2 seed besides 1 year, I think in NFL history in the NFL, they've never been in 2 seeds beside one other year. Maybe in the 80s. I'm not sure. But yeah,
Yeah.
kind of weird.
Yeah. So, I mean, just to wrap things up, where do you and I didn't even see this until just now. Kellen Moore is getting a whole bunch of head coaching
Yes.
jobs too.
Yes. Saints have reached
Saints,
out.
Jaguars. Interesting.
Yeah.
Which I mean that's you guys have dealt with the coordinator losses last year. You
It's
guys
happened.
handled
It's
it as
happened every
well.
time a
Yeah,
coordinator's done a good
I'm
job, which is
surprised
awesome.
The Cowboys haven't reached out to him. You know.
Yeah, it's an interesting. People thought about that when we actually hired Kellen Moore. They're like, "Wow, maybe Dallas. Like, if the Eagles have a good offense, maybe Dallas looks at it just because of to take from the Eagles too." There might be a relationship issue between Kellen Moore and the Dallas with how things went down
Mm,
when Kellen went to the Chargers. So I'm not exactly sure. That's not a fact, but yeah, I mean maybe, but they might have beef too. So
yeah. All right. Cool. What's your overall prediction here? Do you think over the 45.5, and what do you think about the spread and overall in
yeah,
this
it's
game?
weird because oh, I think over Eagles cover
Eagles cover. Okay.
28-17 maybe 28-20. Maybe 20,
Okay.
like 27-20. I'll go 28-17. It's just hard to score on this Eagles defense. And every time I go like give a conservative score, the Eagles go, well, we're gonna win 41-6. So
I hope it's a close game. I hope, I mean, I hope
yeah.
the
I think
Packers win, but
I'll go 28-17. Eagles.
okay, 28-17. So that is right underneath the 45.5 right there too. So we're under the 45.5.
Okay.
That's
Interesting.
right. Yeah.
I took
Um,
points away from the Packers. That's all. Yep.
you know what? I'm gonna go over. I think despite
Yes.
two really good defenses, I'm gonna go over here because I think it's gonna be a punching match. I think I like both these offenses. I think they're capable of overcoming good defenses. I think it comes down to who makes the least amount of mistakes on offense. And I'm gonna go. That's my cat. 30. Ooh, I'm going to go Packers 27, Eagles 31.
Wow, it's a high-scoring
cover the
game.
spread. And I mean, that was essentially the score of week 1. I think it was like what?
Yes,
20,
it's like
24 or something.
34-29 or something like that. Yeah.
34-29. Yeah.
I think
I think it's possible. There you go.
I do. It's weird. I could see. It's not the most intelligent comment, but I could see it going over because offense is king, but both defenses are pretty good. And the Eagles defense just is, like I said, they're just holding teams like whenever I think the score is going to be less in their favor, but still win and make a prediction, they will knock teams out from the start and good teams too. So like, I don't know. It's intriguing. It's a good game.
I do think this is a hungrier Eagles team. I really do. I think that the Packers, especially with they did start their starters against the Bears, and obviously Jordan Love got hurt early.
Yep.
But they just didn't have that urgency. They just didn't have that, against the team. I mean, this is the first time they lost to the Bears in like 10 years or something like that. 13 years maybe. Crazy. So I think that the Eagles are coming in hotter. I think that this is a hungry Eagles team. So I will give the edge to the Eagles here. Anything else before we move on to these Commanders Bucks?
No, I don't think so.
All right. And we have the 6 seed Washington Commanders going to the 3 seed Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Like we said earlier, they started the season against the Bucks in Tampa Bay. So it's like a whole thing all over again. The Bucks won that game 37-20, but that was against a rookie Jaden Daniels' first start before he became Rookie of the Year sensation Jaden Daniels. I think these teams have both changed a lot. That was a Bucks team that was relying on Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin's gone, but now they have Jalen McMillan, who's become a superstar. Defensively, that was a team that the Commanders were playing Emmanuel Forbes, and now they have Marshawn Lattimore. And also, I think that Dan Quinn's just got their defense clicking a little bit better than it did in week 1. So it was essentially a whole new defensive unit for those Commanders. The spread on this game, I believe, is +3. Yep. Yeah. Washington Commanders +3. Jeremy, where do you see this game? How do you see it playing out? And what are your predictions here?
Very weird game because I think Tampa is a very weird team because I don't think they're that good, but when they're clicking, they are kind of scary in a way. They've had their peaks and valleys this year. Early on, everything looked very solid. And then they had some injuries. They compiled some bad losses. They're home in Tampa. Todd Bowles is great at preparing game plans for opposing quarterbacks, especially those who can move with their feet, make them force them to throw in tough situations with pressure. Washington's playing with house money, and Daniels might not be aware enough to play like a rookie. He might be just playing on this high that doesn't wear off, honestly, this year.
That's how he's been playing. Yeah, I mean, he's been playing. He doesn't look like he's never looked really nervous in any of these games since he's really broken out. And I think that the team has full confidence in him, and I think he has full confidence in himself. Yeah, but
it really could go either way, and it's
a spread like -3. It's
Yep, it's amazing how Atlanta, how it was close that Atlanta could have won the division. And if that were the case, I would have called Roger Goodell and say, Atlanta's a 7. I don't care if they won the South, and then figure out the middle too, and have Green Bay and Washington play each other. Obviously, that wouldn't have happened, but that's how skewed the whole division. I mean, the divisions just aren't equal. But
Yeah. I mean, well, the Bucks have the 3 seed at 10-7.
yeah,
And the Commanders have the 6th seed at 12-5. So that's
Yeah.
how, I mean, like, the Bucks are obviously favored. They're at home. They did beat them earlier this year, but I mean, the record shows it. I think that, but I do also think that this Bucks team is incredibly dangerous. Like,
I agree. I think they can. I think they have the ability to be. Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know if consistently we can say that they are, but I think that they have it in their bag of tricks to be a dangerous team. So that's why I guess I'll go Atlanta. 3 stinks because 3 is.
You mean the Buccaneers?
Oh yeah, so not Atlanta, of course. Tampa Bay. I would not pick Atlanta in that game. And oddly enough, I forgot to mention if Washington were have to play the Eagles round 1, the Eagles would have been 7.5-point favorites.
Oh, really? That was the books already had them all set up.
If Washington played the Eagles.
Yeah.
And then you look at the line. Then you look at the line where it's like Ravens 10 over or 10.5 over, their division rival.
The Steelers, yeah.
I think that there's something with I think the familiarity favors the better team. Probably that's why you see higher spreads there, which I guess helps the Packers. But going back to this, I'll take Bucks. I could see them winning by 3. I don't know. Bucks and I'll take them with the spread because if they win by 3, it's a cover, I guess. I don't know if I'd see. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a push.
Yeah.
So what do you think? And the over at this game, I think, is set a little higher. 50.5. I think that's actually the highest. It is, the highest over of all of these playoff games. Which I would put that to because I think these are 2 very capable, high-scoring offenses, and they both have questions on the defensive side.
Yes.
When I'm looking at this game, and do you want to do your score prediction first before I hop in here?
Yeah, I'll go 27-24 Atlanta. No, it goes stop. Atlanta.
You're stuck in the South.
Tampa. Atlanta, Tampa, I guess A's.
Wow.
I'll go Tampa 27-24, and that's the over, of course, too.
A half, yeah.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Yeah, first one you were half a point under. This time you're half a point over. I do like that. I could see that very much. Maybe put in a bet for that exact score. I bet you get some good odds.
That would be nice if that hit. Vegas just know it's fun. Like they do this like they're professionals. They know what happens.
Yeah. We'll see here. I'm looking at the matchups and. Man, I see this Bucks team as hot as the Commanders are. Like they almost lost to the Cowboys last week, and against they
didn't look good. Yeah,
a middling Falcons team 2 weeks ago. That was still also a very, very close game, and with Washington struggling at times too, and kind of coming up at the end there. I'll tell you what. In the games where Terry McLaurin has been targeted and has been able to get the ball, they've looked a lot better. In the games where he hasn't been able to get the ball, they've struggled. So I think that's a key here. I think Terry McLaurin's your star receiver. This is his time. This is the best season he's had, with the best quarterback he's had. I think Jaden Daniels needs to use his legs. I say you be reckless in a game like this. Like, if you have to design some runs, I think Cliff Kingsbury is going to be in his bag on this one. But even with the addition of Marshawn Lattimore and Noah Igbenogany has been really good as a cornerback stepping up for the Commanders, and Benjamin St. Juste is middle whatever. I see the Bucks offense edging out this Commanders team, which is why 27-24 I think is a great score prediction, because
Yeah.
I see this being like, I think it's going to be a high scoring game. I think the over is going to hit. I think Mike Evans, they're on a high, they're rolling. That was a sick play, by the way, like with Mike Evans getting his 1,000th yard at the end of the game when they could have just kneeled it out. They already had the
Yeah.
game in the bag. That was awesome. I think that Baker is clicking with this team. I would love to see the Commanders, like you said, they're playing with house money. I think that's is one of the biggest benefits to this Commanders team.
Yeah.
But I think the Bucks take this ultimately, and I'm going to go 30-27.
Okay.
Also push.
Similar
Also
idea.
a push. Because honestly, like I don't really. The only thing that I would probably do in this game is maybe buy points for the Commanders, but I think it's going to be a close game too.
I would agree with that. Obviously, you lose a lot of that. Vegas is smart. Like even just by a few points, like it kills some of the lines, but some of the yeah, it's I just from a fan's perspective of the sport, if Washington's defense were better, even a little better, I think people would be locked in on Washington, but they're just not.
Yeah.
And that's why I think I'm fearing about next year, that Washington actually just gets a lot better on defense. But at the same time, it's funny because
they have the cap space for it. Yeah.
It's like they don't have many, like their offense isn't like star studded, but it's very productive. So it's gonna be interesting like how they upgrade there, considering that like they don't like they move the ball pretty well with different players at different positions. So yeah, they could get better players at the positions, but will that mean it, how do you balance up that with what they've already had, which has been pretty good? But yeah, I think defensively, just not good enough in this game, and that's the biggest difference.
I mean, Commanders are still in this. So we're not in their full off season, but I'll tell you what, like the Commanders did everything the right way. Like they had all this cap, they didn't overspend. They just bought so that they'd be like at least average at all levels, kind of. And then they saw which of those players hit, and now they have still a bunch of cap to either reinvest in those players that were on the 1-year deals, or then also just invest on those deficiencies that didn't hit. Like the Commanders are poised to maybe keep the tradition alive of a new NFC East winner each year, and could be favorites to win the division next year, depending on how all this shakes out.
Well, it makes sense with the way the NFC East goes in division champions. Well, it probably is Washington's time, and it would be fitting because you can't win it twice in a row, and that really is. That really is interesting how consistent that's been, and you can see it in front of your eyes too. It's like, although last year I do think the Eagles should have won it the last 3 years in a row, but they didn't.
Of course you did.
Well, yeah, but like I thought, like if they don't collapse like they did last year, they would have. But obviously they don't. And then, but you can see it's like this year the Eagles are great. I think next year the Eagles will be very good too. But then maybe Washington's, I don't know, maybe they somehow come out with the division, just with how you can sort of see it like already playing out. So yeah.
And I mean that's probably another reason why the Giants kept Daboll and Schoen, because who wants to go? Dude, the NFC East is really a beast. I mean, the Cowboys had an off year, but like the Cowboys are usually a perennial playoff team, and the Commanders are looking like a perennial playoff team. It's like,
yes.
Well, I mean, this is their first year, but I mean, this is a good start to the regime. And then the Eagles obviously have just, especially with all their youth that they've been hitting on too. Like the Eagles don't seem like they're going anywhere. But
we'll probably, assuming Washington loses in this playoff run, we'll get to it with them going forward in their future. They sort of face the same question the Giants faced after 2022 with, okay, good year. And in the Giants' case, won a playoff game against the Vikings and then lost in the divisional round. Good year. Jones looked good. How do we get better? Obviously, Washington has to apply that with their team. For them, it's kind of nice that they have their franchise quarterback. They have decent talent too throughout the team, and they'll have some money too to spend in the offseason. But it's not going to be like the honeymoon's over for Washington after this year. They're going to have to,
Oh yeah.
they're going to have to be in like not win now mode completely, but like they're going to, they're aspiring to win
They're
championship.
they're they're in the ideal position. You hit on a rookie quarterback after year one, and now he has that rookie contract, and you can just invest, like
Yeah.
give a bunch of 3 year deals. Give T. Higgins a huge 3 year deal contract. You got T. Mac and T. Higgins, and that's
Problem is, we've seen so many quarterbacks regress during their second year. C.J. Stroud, Jalen Hurts, his second starting. Well, I guess it was his third year. He regressed a little.
yeah. But
But
yeah, second year as a starter, yeah.
yeah, so yeah, that'll be something to note now and going forward too.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. But CJ Stroud, by the way, like those were my Super Bowl prediction was Texans Lions, and it's still alive.
Yes,
Don't feel great about it.
statistically, they're alive.
Yeah. Yes, they're alive.
Realistically, Texans will not be winning the AFC. It's kind of wild too because Stroud was so good last year. I still think he's a good quarterback, but it's hard to like. It seems like gone are the days where it's like, you had Peyton, you had Drew Brees, you had even guys like Philip Rivers in his prime. Like they were always consistently good every year. And it doesn't seem like that as much, today. It doesn't seem like it's a guarantee. I don't know why.
Yeah. Even the guys, like Herbert
Defenses,
too is like getting up
yeah,
and down.
yeah.
Yeah. But I think that's those are conversations for a later date. But by the way, I did want to say the 1 year I don't pick the Bills. For like the past 3 years, I picked the Bills, dude. And it looks like I don't know. I can't say it because they could bill it up too because they could always
They're good.
choke.
I agree. I think that they're obviously this year more than ever, but it also seems like with the Bills that they're very good at finding a way to squander an opportunity.
Cool. Well, I think that's an episode. Jeremy, anything you want to say to the fans?
Go Eagles. Very, very. It's just always emotional during the playoffs and very stressful. So we shall see what happens.
Yeah, it's exciting. Listen, it's been 2 years since the Giants were in the playoffs, and I remember I could not. I stayed up till like 4 a.m. versus the game prior to the Eagles, just for my heart to be ripped out of my chest, and then shit on, and then getting just a bunch of texts from you just further shitting on me.
That was a fun game.
Yeah, for you. Yeah. Well, the Vikings game was fun for us. At least we had a little taste. And that taste is still lingering. I think that's half the reason why Brian Daboll is still here. But guys, thank you for listening. If you've gotten this far, if you're a Giants fan, stick with us. I'm here. I'm suffering. I'm going to have some good insight. I'm going to be racking my brain how we can have a Washington Commanders turnaround. I'm going to give my insight. Hopefully John Mayer is listening. Like and subscribe. Tell us how terrible we are. Go Pack, go this week. And we'll see you next time. No Go Eagles at the end there?